Welcome to the Horsewoman's Almanac.
This is a modern field guide to what horses can teach us about changing our world and ourselves.
This podcast is for anyone craving a deeper life, a wilder perspective, and maybe just a little less existential spiraling.
I'm Caroline Culbertson.
And I'm Beth Bears. Thanks for being here. Our guest today, so Lacy Phillips and she had a blog. I was trying to remember this yesterday because I did her amazing podcast, Expanded, for the second time, but she had a blog called Free and Native that when Instagram first came out, I followed. It was like recipes and like herbalism, stuff like that. But then she started this whole company To Be Magnetic about manifestation. And, you know, her process was so relatable in my 20s. I used to have groups over, I don't even think we talked about this in the episode, Caroline, but Lacy and I connected on the internet, on Instagram, and I said, I'm loving doing this work you're putting out. Can I invite a bunch of girlfriends over and will you come sort of guide us through what we're trying to manifest and how to do it? And so she would like come in my living room.
That's really cool.
I know. She would like come in my living room before she was like this big deal CEO of a company and help me and my girlfriends through the process. Anywho, cut to her and I are now, she's in her 40s. I'm almost in my 40s. And I still think her work is incredible. We're both mothers now. I can't, say enough good things. So I really hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, and stick around to the I think it's in like the last third of the episode or sort of towards the end, Beth. She gives us a little bit of like news about what she wants to do with To Be Magnetic next, which I thought was really interesting and I haven't heard her talk about. I mean, that is a huge business and a huge brand. So stick around for that because I found that to be like surprising.
Okay. So Caroline doesn't know Lacy, but Lacy and I go way back. I followed Free and Native, which was her first endeavor before To Be Magnetic, which has grown into this massive, successful company. And I just loved your work from day one. And then personally, we became really good friends. When I was on your podcast, I was trying to remember today. I think I might have been maybe like the third episode. I mean, I was early. We did it in your Echo Park backyard. Yes.
Yeah, that must have been 2019?
Way before COVID. It was 2018 because I had just talked about manifesting the neighborhood. I was coming off Two Broke Girls and I was a religious follower of Lacy's work, still am. And I manifested my job on the neighborhood, my dream job. I've been doing this work for a long time. And I love that we're going to all three talk because Caroline, so in this podcast, The Horsewoman's Almanac, I'm the woo-woo, hippy-dippy, believe in everything. And Caroline is like science. She's
Beth is going to out me.
She's like, but here's why I think you'll love Lacy's work. Because it's based in neuroscience. So I feel like To Be Magnetic and psychology. I feel like To Be Magnetic is something that Caroline's going to love. So on that, Lacy, can you give us just like an overview? Because I'm sure there will be people listening who don't know what To Be Magnetic is and the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, in a nutshell, when I was an actress in LA, I just moved and I grew up, in a very humble background and came to LA, didn't go to college, went straight to acting school, was so serious about it, 5 days a week, all I did, scene study, partners, constant. But I just was making, I was doing like a commercial here, a little bad horror film here, and so for my 18th birthday, my mom got me a session with her psychic. A psychic she had been with forever and ever and ever, who had actually been really accurate, still is very accurate. And the psychic told me, she was like, go and get this book. And I'm not going to name it because it's going to, really lead people in the wrong direction. She was like, read it, follow it to a T, and you'll manifest everything you want in your life. And I'd never heard of manifestation. I got it. I mean, I still have it. It's like dotted, underlined, everything. And I followed it to a T. And it's a very old school. All my kitties are passing by. They want to know what I'm talking about. It's a very, very old school approach to manifestation, what I like to call old rhetoric, very much in the superstition. But it was my entry point. And so from that point on, for the next 5 years, I read The Secret and read The Law of Attraction and everything that was out there on manifestation. And I would follow followed them so accurately, but they were really abstract. Things like how the law of attraction talks about getting into the vortex. And I would be like, am I in the vortex? I don't know. It's so abstract.
What is it?
And, as you know better than anyone, Beth, that your acting career, art career is just so out of your hands in many ways. So I was doing anything. I had the vision board. I was pretending to be. I would set up my home like it was already everything I had after I manifested. And around 25, I started to realize I have a lot of gifts. And what I mean by that, it's a lot of like clairvoyant psychic gifts. I'm a claircognizant. And what that means, it's really hard to figure out because it means things just drop into your head and you know they're true. So like to fine tune that in 25 is really difficult. Whereas my mom has all of the psychic gifts. She's a medium. That means spirits talk to her. She's a clairvoyant. She sees things. She dreams things. She hears things, clairsentient. I have those very like on a small level, but the one that's the strongest is claircognizant, and it's so confusing. But I started to realize I had that because something would land and I would know. I would be able to watch someone's life and I would go, oh, if they just did this and this and this, what they want would happen. And I started to realize that was becoming more and more strong. Simultaneously, I was realizing that anytime I did what then was intuitive, but like very simple psychology practices in my life, things would start to move, energy would move and manifest. So it's what we call unblocking. I started to figure out this formula of manifestation that had nothing to do with these like very abstract concepts. I was like, wait, there's actually a step-by-step process here that I was figuring out, and it was really approachable. It wasn't really out there. It was simple stuff. It was like if you unblock your inner child blocks that you picked up, these narratives you picked up that basically are the ways that you loop and see the world. If you were able to shift those on a subconscious level where they're living, where they're looping, and you also very simply are what we call expanding. You're able to go see to believe, show your subconscious mind that what you want is possible. Because many of us, the way that we grew up, we didn't witness the things we want to be true, or else we would have them. So it's not like when you were growing up, Beth, that you just were around all of these actors that had these successful careers, right? You had to go show your subconscious mind that, wait, there are other women like me that have these jobs that I want, therefore it's possible. So your subconscious has to see to believe. And then the last really big piece to the formula was aligned action. So a lot of these manifestation, old rhetoric models are like visualize until it comes, or pretend that it's here, but it doesn't have a lot of action to it, right? Where I started to realize that anywhere you were settling in low self-worth in the past, and you actually took a step where you're communicating to the universe, like, no, I'm not going to take that shit anymore. I'm actually worth more, and I'm going to step into it. It created what I call magnetism. Things would start to manifest. So I realized, wait, there's a step-by-step process to this that anyone can do from any background, any upbringing, any religious upbringing that you were with, anything. Anybody can follow these key steps and manifest. And then, so basically at the time I was a holistic chef and I started to have these clients, like actor clients. I had one that was the head of a really big studio, and they were like, you're always talking about this manifestation thing. Can you just teach me? And I thought it was something only I could do. And so I was like, yeah, okay. And I started to teach them, and they started to manifest. And they were like, I think the chefing thing's good, but I actually think this is your thing. And so I just started to teach it in group format, and eventually sort of quietly launched it on my blog, and it took off like wildfire. And now, as you know, in our community, Beth, we've had over tens of thousands of testimonies of people manifesting. So it's like anybody can follow this and manifest if they really put in the work and follow the steps. And it's approachable. It's not going to be getting into a vortex. It's like, let me look at that time when I raised my hand in 4th grade and the teacher shamed me for what I said for the wrong answer. And that's why now I can't manifest the public speaking I want. You know what I mean? It's just very simple concepts of really going back, reparenting yourself, outing your shadow, expanding, seeing to believe what's possible, and then taking aligned action towards what you want. It's pretty approachable stuff. And We've now since had a really notable neuroscientist and psychiatrist, Dr. Tara Swart, go through our entire process and back it by neuroscience and psychology. So it's pretty approachable.
I have so many questions.
I was just about to say, I'm going to let Caroline take that because I know all this works and I'm like a full believer. So I'm like, okay, go ahead, Caroline.
Okay, so like one of the words that I have heard you use a number of times, and including in this conversation, is this idea of blocks. And like, I want to understand, to the average layman who is not familiar with this work, what that is, because that does seem to be a focus. It sounds like it's some sort of like self-sabotaging measure or some sort of self-doubt, or there's some sort of like gap in your belief in yourself. But like, what are they? Why are they so important? Why do we need to talk about them?
Totally. So great question. So what I believe is the moment we're born, we're just this pure essence, right? Like your baby that's about to be born is just this pure essence. But then what happens, and it's just the way it is, it's the human experience, the baby's going to experience pain, shame, and programming from now countless avenues in their life, from media, from school, familial, from things they read in books. Like, we are absorbing all of this programming. And anytime, because we're all so unique in our own absorption and our own comprehension of something, with our own uniqueness, let's say that you make a comment when this baby's 5 and you say, I remember one, I'll use myself as an example. I remember my mom making this comment where there was a woman walking in front of us who had a lot of cellulite. And she said to me, she's like, and this is like so bad. So this is an extreme example, but she said, if you keep eating fried food, Lacy, you'll have that too. So that's like a very good example of, oh, that lives now in my subconscious. It's looping. That basically, if I ever look like that, I'm not going to be loved. So, you know, when I was an actress or a model, that's a block, right? Like, if I have cellulite, that's looping. I don't even really maybe even remember that memory, and it's living in there. That's a block. Or another great example, one for me, I'll give another really good example. So my parents were 20 when they had me. They both were not trying to get pregnant. They accidentally got pregnant. We're hardly dating. Yeah. So I came into the world, you know, and I had this really unspoken, unconscious belief that we can call a shadow, simple psychology. It took me a while to uncover that I'm a burden. So basically, I wasn't wanted, and then I was passed around from 4 different households in 1 week. So it was like at my aunt's house, and she had to take care of me along with her 2 kids, along with my grandparents. And everywhere I went, I was just shrinking, trying to be good, a perfectionist, because I knew that I wasn't their child. I wasn't my dad. And, you know, it's like I was a burden. And so that's a massive block if you're calling in your partner. Like, how on an unconscious, subconscious level do I really believe that I can be loved if I'm still thinking I'm a burden to the people that love me, right? So that's a really clear sign of like, your partnership's not coming in, the job you want isn't coming in. It's because there's a block. And so the way that I like to explain the block is, if we're energetic about it, the way it looks is the universe's only intention is to get you back into your whole, worthy, authentic self, that essence you were born as. That's your magic. You came in with that essence, but it's inevitable that you're going to experience pain, shame, and programming. We're all different. The way that we take in one comment could make us really shrink. It could make us feel really big. We're so unique. So it's not like parents are going around trying to mess up their children on purpose. They're just doing the best they can, right? So our own responsibility is to then go through where all of this stuff is potentially looping and literally projecting out, and we're bringing in whatever we're projecting out. We're going to go back and rewrite that story, because the universe, it just wants to get us back to that magic essence. And it's not even something that's like lost. I like to say it's onion layers, that we're just peeling away the layers to get back. And so the way that we do that to be magnetic is we have a really bespoke hypnosis process. We call them deep imaginings. And basically we've worked with EMDR specialists, we've worked with neuroscientists, binaural beat experts, you know, in order to like craft this really, really effective version of a hypnosis that when you go into that state and your subconscious comes forward, we walk you through really specific somatic experiencing and processes that can bring that memory up. You can address it and start to rewrite the memory. And the more that you then, through action, the more that you take through action that is in alignment with that new belief you're wanting to overwrite and create, you create a new neural pathway. So our brains are literal neuroplasticity. They're malleable. So we actually have the control to go back and unblock those things, to rewrite them now, have a healing in an effort to loop out what we actually want in order to bring it back. Do you have a really good example of a core wound that you've unblocked before, Beth, that really contributed to a manifestation?
So I'm like taking this in as you're talking, because it's also been a while since I've heard you really describe what it is, because I've been doing it for so long that it's like second nature to me. But Caroline, what I think is really the thing that Lacy's work has helped me do is to find authenticity.
Yeah.
And the way that Lacy describes this peeling away of the onion of layers, like probably in my 20s, and I was able to do it. I wanted to manifest, the car I wanted, or a free, PR dress from Shop Doan, or whatever, like something like that. But, and I bring this back to horses, which is perfect for this podcast, but horses demand that we live in the present moment and show up as our authentic selves in order to connect with them. And Lacy's work peeled away my onion layer and brought me back to like the authentic why. Why do I want to manifest this thing? And you'll be surprised when you go through your child and you go through things, and you even have one, Lacy, that recently I've loved about what's the worst case scenario. Because also as someone who's struggled with panic and anxiety and the unknown, my therapist was always like, well, let's unpack the worst case scenario. And I feel like for me, my biggest wound, like my wound in my relationships, in my life, and everything has been abandonment. Mm-hmm. I'm worried I'm going to be alone and not survive, right? And so when I get back to like authentically what I want, when I strip away fear of money, fear of ego, fear of those sorts of things, what I want authentically is so different than what I thought maybe before doing the unblocking work. Like if that makes sense.
The safe stuff or the egos, the things we think, and that's another form of programming. Like when we're really in that essence, that magic we were born as, every one of us like has a magical life when they're in alignment with that. Every one of us. And so we've taken this other form of programming, not just like the blocks, right? We're taking in so much programming from media, family, school, everything of what we should be to be loved. So like 95% of the time when we are manifesting, hence why we're not connecting with it as well, we're calling in that's not even authentic to us at all. So like the crux of our work is like getting into true alignment with your absolute authenticity, because when you manifest from that place, that's when you connect with the big manifestations. And so knowing what your why is. I've had so much, like when I was acting back in the day, so much of my why for even acting was that my mom used to be a model and an actress, that I wanted her approval, which is, it was never my real dream, it was my why. My why was so programmed. Similarly, I remember calling in things like the Malibu house with the infinity. I was so young, like the infinity.
That's what I mean. Our manifestations have changed from our 20s.
Drastically. And I remember when I look at that why, I have the Topanga house. I have many aspects of it, but authentic to me. So it's like that true understanding your true authenticity. Many of us don't even know, unless you really drop into that subconscious state, asking your truest self, your authentic self. A lot of us are just on autopilot, wanting this shit to validate us that is not at all going to bring our true authentic happiness.
Would you say that it's fair to say that what you're talking about with like authenticity is getting back to understanding what your core values are? Like, I'm trying to give some language to people who aren't familiar with this work, and then living in alignment would be acting in accordance with those values. Is that kind of like parallel? Am I getting that sort of right?
Great, like layman's term, wonderful way to synthesize it. So we have this thing that is like the anchor of all of our work, and it's called our authentic code. And basically you like take this big questionnaire and you do a deep imagining and you figure out what your 4 core pillars are. So like examples for me, when I look at everything I buy, what I want to spend money on, what I want to spend time on, it comes back to these 4 things. Number 1 is family memories. Number 2 is like heirloom design. What I mean by that is like lasting reverence of pieces and design, not just consuming, but heirlooms that I love. That's like my fixation is design, but heirloom design. The third for me is finance. I'm absolutely obsessed with finance and finances and growing wealth. I love it. It's like a game to me. I love it. And then the fourth is self-care and spirituality. And so with that, that's just examples. With those pillars, I now know how to filtrate everything in my life through that. If it doesn't fall into one of those categories, an opportunity that's coming in, something I'm buying, something that I'm manifesting, something that I'm doing with any of my time, it's fluff. So it's like, it's such a good way of not even having to dig deep into this work to go, oh, it calibrates you. It recalibrates you quickly. What are yours, Beth?
Basically, in order to have the life I love, I must hustle constantly or I'll lose it all.
That's
goes
my
back.
big one.
We're so similar with that. And
So is Jessica's.
Interesting.
I have to be in control at all times because if I at all get out of control, I'll lose everything.
That's how I am too. And that goes back to like my therapist would say the abandonment loop. But I think for me, the authentic code, like nature is a huge one for me. Creativity, but doesn't necessarily have to be acting, like designing this cowboy boot and it being a part of regenerative leather that's new, that like is something that also gives back. Service. Oh, here it is. Freedom and vitality. So time and energy for my joy practices. Horses, nature, creativity. Horse-powered purpose. I'm obsessed with all things horses, as both of you know, and it's honestly, aside from my child and my family, where I find my deepest, most wonderful joy, and that's new for me. Horses are new in my life like they weren't like a childhood thing like they were for Caroline, or even you, Lacy. You grew up with a cowboy dad and you were around a ranch and animals, but like as an adult, they've just become my church, truly. Creative expression and soulful beauty. So creating from joy and not pressure, which my whole life and career, I felt a lot of creating from pressure as opposed to just that like free joy. And then time and presence for my daughter and husband, like love of my family, kind of like Lacy, like a family pillar value. But and they change, like they've changed over the years of my work with Lacy and how I've changed as a person and an actor and a human. And I think, Lacy, is there something, excuse, oh my God, you guys, sorry. I have like a nut stuck in my,
I was eating pistachios before this too.
I was such a dumb eat. I was eating a Kind bar with nuts.
Yeah. You know what I read? I read this morning that have you ever listened to a podcaster that you can like hear their mouth? And by the way, neither one of you guys have it. That's how I'm saying it. But have you ever heard that where they're like really close and you can hear like apparently some people just have, I don't know if it's like a drier mouth or a wetter mouth or whatever, but if you eat a green apple ahead of podcasting, it eliminates that sound.
Fun fact, Josh Groban told me, singer of the Sweet Velvety Voice.
Casual flex.
Casual flex, my friend.
Yeah. You know.
He is a dear friend. He's a lovely human. But he told me to eat an apple anytime before going on stage or singing or anything. So I don't know if it was green. Clears all that phlegm, everything you just ate, like
just
clears
it's like a scrub brush for your
Hot tip from Mr. Groves.
Ooh, I need to. It must be like pectin or something. It's doing something. Yeah,
I don't know,
that's a
but
really good
I
tip.
should remember that. Like, you just made me think of the Josh Groban tip, so now I'll do it before we have a podcast.
Hot tip for everybody else.
That's
Hot
a
tip.
bonus.
This
That's
is
a
just
bonus.
like bonus
That's
content.
subscriber only content. For
You know who loves
Horsewoman's Almanac.
apples? Who loves apples? Horses. So
Horses do love apples. Bringing it back. Wait,
Although
I
can't
do.
feed my donkeys or anybody sweets. Donkeys are so different, obviously, but yeah, their only treats are like very low, that I give them low sugar, orchard pellets, because it doesn't like mess with their whole glucose system. Basically, they're really.
They like to founder.
Yeah, they foundered. So I have a foundered rescue that we're like at the end of the road with. Poor thing. We've tried everything with her, and she's like Cushing's. It's just so sad. So off topic, but during the fires, it came like within a mile to our house, which I'm used to. I'm from California, in Yosemite. When I was buying my house up there, it was like in my backyard while I was in escrow, and I'm like, well, not my house yet, you know. So I'm wherever I buy homes, they're always, you know, fire things. So I'm okay with it, and I get it. But that was like the hardest piece, was evacuating the large animals, which your contact you had given me, Beth, he really showed up. Bless him. They were so scared and stuff, and yeah, really showed up and got them out. But my like soulmate, it'll make me emotional to talk about, but my soulmate Tonki was so stressed in it, going to my dad's ranch, that she like never recovered. Still don't know what happened to her, but she died. But up there, her bonded, you know, one that's foundered, we're like, that would have been so perfect if she just died during that at my dad's ranch. You could bury her. And it was so crazy through all of that stress. She made him back, but the young, you know, painted one didn't. So emotional. As we're all grieving.
I was about to say, we're all like, no.
I know. But yeah. So on the like short thing of it, they can't have. Donkeys, people give them this like rap of being such, you know, sturdy beings. They're so sensitive. So sensitive.
Dude, Blue has like an autoimmune now, and then it has cellulitis, and then we got a call yesterday that Rosie, my husband's horse, has this leg problem, and I'm like, the fragility of like donkeys, like in the equine genus, is it called genus? I feel like they are so fragile, but maybe that's also what makes them so grounding,
sensitive and
sensitive.
Yeah.
Now, Lacy, so you don't have necessarily horses, but you have a plethora of animals. Would you say that there's one like breed that you're more connected to, or that gives you like that feeling of church that like I feel around horses? I'm assuming Caroline feels that as well around horses.
Gosh, it's so fascinating. So basically, like backstory here, I grew up on a ranch like right outside of Yosemite. My dad's a full-blown cattle ranching cowboy, ropes every weekend, full-blown thing. And when I was little, this is like part of my story. In order to like connect with him, I wanted to be obsessed with horses because that's his thing, right? And horses scare the shit out of me. And in fact, after having donkeys, like anytime I'm at my ranch, I'm like, boy, that thing's really big, with really small ears. Like, they scare me, and I don't have that communication with them. I don't. Like, you guys are probably...
That is so interesting.
It's so interesting to me, Lacy. It is really fascinating because you seem like a horse, like you seem like the archetype of the person who would be obsessed with horses.
No, and I know it's exactly what you were saying, Beth. Like, they can read everything. And so anytime I'm like riding a horse, you know, I've always obviously rode Western because that's what he does. And he'll be like, melt like butter into your seat. Like, he's always trying to coach me through it. And I'm like, this horse can tell I'm so scared.
Is that what you think it is? Like there are some horses especially that you're just like, you see right through me, and that is like, terrifying.
My dad's like, they're gonna walk all over you. And the thing, I think my thing is because I've been around them. My dad shoes horses, he breaks horses, like it's his thing. But I've been bit, kicked off, like, and I barrel raced when I was little. Again, just trying to connect with him. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I'm not just like some like quasi horse person. I've like been in it with horses, and I've been like, okay, at some point you just really need to tap out on something you're not good at. Like,
But
and
you
I'm
were
not.
brave to do it when you were little. You felt okay
Yeah,
barrel
I
racing?
did. Yeah, and I would do like I was always the one who warmed up for my dad, and then I would always be cocky, like I don't need to warm up this horse. And one time, and I was
My
like
God,
riding
Lacy.
bareback and stuff all the time. Like when I was little, I was really doing all of this. It was just second nature, like growing up in that environment. But I remember one time, one of his roping horses, I was like, I don't need to warm it up. And I was like, I'm gonna just start trotting. And this fucking horse took off. I fell on like the side of the saddle because I was little, and we were going straight for the arena like fence.
Oh,
Like
boy.
it would have knocked me, and my dad had to run and like grab the horse and
He
stop
got
it. So I
it.
think I have so many traumatic. Like, I
Yeah,
remember when my
that's
dad was shoeing a horse, and he's like, "Don't walk behind a horse. Don't walk behind a horse." And I remember it kicked me so hard. I have these core memories, so I think it's that stuff. That's why I think I'm not. I also have never, like you two, I've never had my own horse that I move slowly with. And we
Yeah.
get,
Yeah.
'cause I have that with all of my other animals. Like we take
Yeah.
our time warming up. You know, I've always just been sort of thrown into it with other
Yeah.
people's horses. So it would probably be really different if I had my own communication with my own horse. But
Beth and I talk about this a fair amount, like in our friendship podcast that we send back and forth. To
Our
each
voice memo, just friend voice memos.
favorite form of communication.
where like there is
too.
something like when we bring in this pace with horses that's often dictated by competition pressures or just the way that somebody else is doing it or the fact that the horse isn't yours, so you can't just like silo yourself off. I'm just going to do this at my own pace that matches my horse. When we bring in external pressures, it messes something up there in the way that you can build a bond with
Yeah.
the horse. And I think that, I mean, in the standard way that most of us are taught to ride, that is not allowed. And I think it makes me wonder often how many relationships between a horse and rider have been thwarted, or how many people just leave the sport entirely because of these weird external pressures. I think Beth is such a good example of somebody who has come into this
I'm
in
the
a
weirdo.
way.
Well, you
Yeah,
came in
no,
such
but,
a
like,
delicate
you-
way through horse
You
Exactly.
came in a really,
way to
really
do it.
delicate way. But also, Beth, I feel like you came into horses at a time in your life where you're like, I really do not give a what anybody thinks. I'm going to do my thing. Like, you were secure enough in yourself. If you
Yeah.
had started when you were like 14,
Totally.
different ball game, right?
And I came in learning on the ground. I came in not riding. I came in
Yes.
completely at liberty, bareback, bitless in Topanga, riding, trails, and then had this whole sort of awakening with the sport of dressage and fell madly in love with that sport, but only from the lens of making sure the horse and I have a partnership and communication. And I also, like-minded people seek out like-minded people. I also had trainers who put the horse first, things that like were my values, my core values in horsemanship, and so yeah, I never had like what Caroline had growing up, like eventing and like sport, like riding, competing, or what you had where you're kind of thrown on. And it's interesting, like, Lacy, hearing you talk about your dad and his like love and obsession, because my poor daughter, from the moment she was born, I have just vomited horse all over her and
Yeah.
tried and
I've been
tried
watching
and
that. Yeah, watching it.
and it's interesting because she'll like go up to our huge 18-hand draft horse and like hug her around the,
That's
there's no
Rosie?
fear. That's Rosie. There's
Yeah.
no fear. She'll hug her and like, and then so she has no fear of horses, but she's definitely like, I don't like bugs. I don't want to go there. I want to wear a dress. I want to dance. I want to sing. Like, and I'll be like, you don't want to go to the barn with mommy on our like Saturday and groom? And she's like, no.
Yeah.
And Michael's like, yeah, we have to honor. So it's interesting because I feel like I'm like your dad. I'm like, I breathe it. And so I just assumed I'd have this like little obsessive horse girl. But you really have to, I mean, I'm sure you guys feel this as mothers. You have to honor the spirit of who your children are and what they value. But I was like, I'm a little like, oh, bum. Like, oh, man.
You're like,
know?
we thought that would be our bonding.
Yeah.
Well, Something that fascinates me beyond this conversation, because all I watch are like old Victorian
Oh yeah, Lacey
English
cracks me
shows.
up with
I'm
this.
obsessed with.
I'm like, you
Wait,
don't have
give
any
me
guilty pleasure? Like you don't watch
give
Love
me an
Island or
example.
like
What are you?
No, no.
What's your Netflix queue? Or it sounds like
Oh,
maybe your historical history channel
Jane
queue.
Austen?
yes, that's my vibe. Like anything English, Victorian, old English period piece is all my vibe. Like I've seen everything. But what astounds me is we were 100% reliant. Everybody had to have a
Yeah.
relationship and a bond with a horse prior to
Yes.
an art. And it is like an art form that's completely lost. Like I couldn't have been afraid of a horse. You know what I mean? In order
Yeah.
to like move or
Yeah.
rely or farm work or anything, a carriage.
That's
So I think about that a lot. And I think that your way in, Beth, is like the way in. It's the healthiest way.
What we said earlier is that horses can see who we are and how we show up, and sometimes like that's a very confronting thing. And I think a lot of people who have donkeys would say that donkeys, I mean, I think all animals have
yeah.
that aspect to a certain extent. I think that that's why we're drawn to them, and I think that's also why sometimes we're scared scared of them, because they really do hold a mirror up to us. And I was thinking about the work that you do and how many people have been affected by the work that you do and have changed. And I've always been somebody who thinks that people can change, for
Oh,
sure.
yes.
And I think what you're talking about is like it is change, but it also kind of isn't. It's like more like an awareness of how things actually are, and then like optimizing for that for yourself. And so I was curious how you feel like this work actually could be useful for people who maybe are struggling with their relationships with their animals, maybe are struggling with, like, I show up in a really toxic or dysregulated or just I'm focused on the wrong things with my animals. I think a lot of people, and I can speak personally to this. I mean, there was definitely a time in my life where I was competing a lot, and I look back and I was like, why was I so hard on myself? Why was I so hard on my horses? Why was I so focused on whether or not I was winning or losing? And like, what did that mean to me? Why was I so focused on that? And I think a lot of it comes from, I was wrapped up in this culture of like trying to prove myself, and sort of being a young person. And I knew that my parents had invested a lot of time and, some money, and it felt like I had to live up to a lot of expectation. That changed the way that I walked into a barn then versus walking into a barn now, which is like right now I'm not competing at all. My relationship with my horses has flourished a lot. And I'm not saying that you have to stop competing or stop riding all the time or being serious about sport to have a good relationship with your horse. But so much of what you do, I think, finding that authenticity and like living in alignment with that actually bridges into also our relationships with our animals.
Oh yeah, I saw where you were going the whole time and tracking, because I have 5 dogs, 3 cats, 3 alpacas, 2 Flemish giant bunnies, 12 chickens, and then 2 donkeys, right? And
Lacey's basically my expander for my dream life, just FYI. Yeah.
and I would have a lot more. We only have an acre in Topanga. I have a
Oh my
200-acre ranch in Elk that I would love to spend more time at and bring everybody to. In fact, when I envision, I'm like, what is my truly authentic 60-year-old self? It's like a shepherdess, that like is
Do you know who
shearing.
Isabella Rossellini is?
Oh my God, she is that.
I'm like,
she's
that to me
too.
is exactly what
That's
she
the
is, a
vibe.
shepherdess. That is
That's
the vibe.
the vibe. That's
Yep.
what I'm going for, in all the beautiful ways that she does it.
100%.
Like what I think is so important for people, and even my dad. So my dad has such a Western way of interacting with animals. I'm so empathic and so sensitive to them. Mm-hmm. And they know that. People are like, you have to be the alpha and stuff. And I don't totally believe that. I believe that you have to have good communication with them. I don't have the time to have like optimal communication. I do know one day I will. But the one thing I know about every one of my animals is that they are obsessed with me. Every one of them are obsessed with me. They would spend all their time with me if they could, because they know I'm safe. I respect them. I respect everything about them. I love them. They know I care for them. They know I'm coming in so pure for them. And I think that's a complete reflection of the work I do. They know that I'm coming at them not needing anything from them except for who they already are, right? Like my Great Pyrenees is here to protect our chickens, and I require nothing else of her. And I don't even require her to do that. I know that's what she's made to do. And she's still a puppy, so I know in time she'll be better and better and better. And so I think that's such a reflection of, I look at anything in my life at this point. My kids, like, I don't give a shit if they ever go to school. I don't care if I value academia by nothing. Also, where AI is going, like, I just think I'm pretty futuristic where I see things. I'm like, if anything, I'm nurturing them working with their hands. Like, go to trade school, because every job that you can do outside of that will be obsolete in 20 years. And AI is not going to be building a house for 20 years. It's like, I'm really counterculture with a lot of things, but I think it's because I have nothing to prove through them. I have nothing to prove through my animals. I don't require them. Nobody's needing to lift me up, because I've done that for myself through my work. And I'm not going to say I'm fully integrated. That's always going to be a process, but I'm integrated enough. Like, I don't require anything of others, because I've already done that within myself. So I think that's why that animal relationship I have is so pure. And I think animals really are craving that in our world. There's so much required of them to hold emotionally, to work, and just all this stuff. And so I think that's just
to
such
live
a
in environments that are not natural to them. Like,
that's why horses are always so, and donkeys are always so, like, have ailments and issues. They're not living the way that they're not herds properly. They're not in nature. They're not out foraging.
I feel a lot of guilt about that, especially in California. It's a lot easier where Caroline lives than where we live, Lacy, in SoCal, because in upstate New York, whatever, you can get acres and acres and acres of pasture, and they can live in a herd, and they can forage and be on their feet. And it's really difficult when and like Caroline said, I don't know if we were recording yet, but when you said something about being in service by, like, giving an animal a home, or maybe Lacy said it, but when you bring it, like, like when you, like, my rescue horse Belle, I rescued her. So it's like, she's not living in pasture and whatever, but, like, I gave her a damn amazing life compared to, she was a rescue from a domestic violence situation. She was like, and it's like, I might not be perfect yet. Like, I can't give her that pasture yet, but, I know I'm doing my best. And then it's like, you have to, anyways, Michael and I always talk about, like, wild Mustangs versus, like, our domestic horses, because it's a big convo, and there's a big tension, I feel like, in the horse world about what horses should be doing and what shouldn't right now. Like, there's a lot of opinions, and it's hard. It's hard when you want to do well for the animals you love, and,
Well, and I see that even with my dogs and cats, like my senior that just passed last year never had one health issue except from a couple of teeth being extracted. And I rescued her at 3, but it's like I fed her and, like, tried as much as possible to give her such a primal life that she was so healthy. So like, for me, I would say my biggest intention when I have an animal is, like, how can I get them as close to their natural environment as possible? Obviously, it's impossible when it's a domesticated animal, but I'm always, like, thinking of the utmost health. And with equine, it's especially hard because nature is very slim. It's very expensive, and it's really hard to give them that kind of life.
Another thing that I was so curious to ask you is, what frustrates you? You've done so much work. You're, like, the master of this work, but what is still hard for you today?
I would say the things that are my biggest mirrors in my life, I require a lot of support in my life because I have an autoimmune. So, like, in my household, I have so much support. And then in my companies, I have a lot of employees. So as somebody who is a perfectionist and is an overachiever in ways, it's really hard to have a lot of people around that I'm delegating to when I know if I did it, I would do it easily because I know what I want, and it's so hard being somebody else who doesn't know what somebody wants. And so I have to say that that's really hard for me, is relying on others. And I'm not a manager by nature. If I could be on my own, I would just be an Aquarius, like locked away in my little farm and never see anyone at all. But having children, I need a lot of support. The house is dirty. I have 5 dogs, and they come in and out, it's like, and I'm somebody who, the control piece, like, I need things to be organized. I need them to be clear for me to have a clear mind and to be a healthy, kind human being. So I would say the thing that is my greatest mirror still are employees, because I'm just not a natural manager, leader in that way. And it's something I'm completely and totally reliant on. So I would say like the most amount of work I'm still doing on myself often comes down to having to rely on employees. As women in a clan in Scotland, I would have had an entire support system of elders, and we lived in community. I mean, I was just on a rabbit hole on ChatGPT of this last week. I was like, prior to beds in Scotland, what would you have slept in? And I'm like, what were the houses? Like, I'm deep in that. I'm so curious about that. And so
I like that because, like, I can almost guarantee nobody else has used
ever probably
plugged that into ChatGPT.
Totally.
ChatGPT is like, wow, what a novel question.
Yes, like, this is such a
Wow, this is the first time I've ever dealt with this. That's so funny. But how cool that it knows that, though.
Oh, and it's just like sourcing anything that's ever been published, right? And so
right. Yeah. I'm still new to the AI. I'm like trying to figure it all out. I'm like, wait, what is
like,
it?
what are
How
we
does it
doing
work?
here?
What do I?
Yeah.
Who is he? Where does he live? What's
I know,
his
and
name?
it's like, how do I not atrophy my brain and ruin the planet?
I
But also, I
know.
really need to be keen on this because it's where we're going. It's not leaving. It's not going
Yeah.
anywhere, right? But so I like to think of this as a bigger topic. If somebody's hearing me say that I have help and they're getting triggered, all they're remembering ancestrally inside their body and their mind is like, there was a time where I had like deep community ancestrally, where my grandmother and aunt and everybody was helping me. We were cooking together as a tribe or a clan or a, whatever your ancestors were, and we were all sleeping in the same home together. One was, my work wasn't on a podcast on a computer all day. I was weaving, or I was gathering, I was cooking, and I was doing that with my aunts and my sisters and my grandmothers while the kids were just playing around. We weren't confined. Guess where the animals were? Living a very minimal domesticated life, but living in like they were symbiotic to needs at the time.
Do you think that there will be a day, Lacy, where you step back from what you're doing and from running for companies? And I mean, it sounds like you're somebody who like wants to be with your animals and like really living in nature. And I mean, what does that look like for you?
I've started really calling in. I'm manifesting it. Like, I want to sell to be magnetic. I'm like, somebody raise the cash, buy it. I am ready to. I started a Substack earlier this year, just as an outlet, because I used to have a blog, and it is the most rewarding thing in the world to me. I talk about any little thing I'm interested in. There's no team, there's no schedule. It is like, and it's so successful already because it's just passion, right? Like, I oscillate between number 1 to number 5 in design, and I've only had it for 3 months, and it's very successful so far, and it's such a reflection of like where my passion truly lies. And I really do just want to be a lot more present, and I want to slow down my life. And I manifested my dream ranch in, Mendocino, which is on the northern coast, and I want to spend a lot more time there. And so these are like the manifestations I'm calling in, and I'm just really like, who wants to buy To Be Magnetic? I'll be happy to be like helpful and
so you're like ready for that. Like I'm
ready for that.
You're ready.
I've just become very ready for it all. Yeah, very ready. Yeah.
That's a bit like, what does that feel like to you? Like, does that feel
Liberating.
sad at all? Liberating.
No.
Okay.
No, because I really realized that like To Be Magnetic as a company is so much greater than me. It's a community, and it's
Yeah.
people who are like in community with us who very much want and need this to continue. But I've manifested mostly everything I've ever wanted. And it's like, it's not I don't eat, breathe, and sleep doing that anymore where it was that. And I'm ready to pass that torch to, the people who can really take it to the moon. I've hit my ceiling with it. I want to be with my kids, and I want to be on my ranch, and I just want to be doing only what lights me up.
Recently, Lacy, on your podcast with Jessica, I think it was like, nature is the ultimate abundance.
Completely.
And I was like, wow. Like, and it's accessible to everyone.
Truly.
Nature, no matter if you live in a city and you have Central Park, it's free. And if you can cultivate abundance from nature, like feeling abundant from that, like you've won. And so for you, it's like literally selling the company is just getting back to being in nature full time,
And rhythm
really.
with
And
nature,
rhythm
like
with
full
nature.
rhythm.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I really want to be completely tied to the rhythm of nature.
Lacy, if you could pick 3 books you think every woman should read, what would they be and why?
This is a good one. I'm a pretty avid reader.
I know you are. That's why I wanted to ask you. And I've read a lot of the ones you've recommended. So
I know. I'm like, let me think about this for 1 minute that every woman should read. I mean, it's such a popular one, but Women Who Run with Wolves.
one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I haven't
it's
read
just
it.
like,
Caroline, you'll love. Oh, this is definitely on your list, Caroline.
I really love Braiding Sweetgrass.
My favorite of all time.
Yeah.
Yep, that's my
it's such a
favorite
good
book of all
one.
time. Yep.
And then out of that, like very, I really believe that every woman should be empowered with finances. And one of the great starting points with that, I love Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. I really, really, really believe every woman should be empowered with their finances. Every person, like I would say 98% of society doesn't know what to do, no matter if you're waitressing today or if you're making, $200,000 a year, you need to know what to do with your money beyond having a checking and savings account. Like every person should really empower themselves with that.
Just a real quick piggyback on that, Lacy. I agree with you and I have forced that book on so many friends and family and no one's read it. So all y'all listening, I read it, but it's interesting because I grew up without any money. My parents were educators and then came into Two Broke Girls. During Two Broke Girls, the first time making money in my life, I had no idea. I was not empowered. I felt lost. I was like, just whatever. And now I'm just like, I'm literally smacking my head.
I know, you could have made that work so hard.
But I could have made it, and then I didn't read Ramit until probably my mid 30s. I'm almost 40. And like, it's changed just how I see everything. And I cannot recommend all 3 of those books enough. Braiding Sweetgrass is literally the book I gift people. I think it's
beautiful.
Talk about like the ultimate abundance being nature and motherhood, Caroline. You will love that book as a mother. Thank you so much, Lacy.
You're so welcome. Thank you guys for having me on. This was so fun.